What's made me very proud of KnowBe4 is our hypergrowth and the growth on Gartner's Magic Quadrant, saying now we're top right. The company's only been around for 8 years. And we're not developing technology, we're actually doing security awareness training and simulated phishing. And we're now #1 billion-dollar company. That's a huge accomplishment.
Only 1% of companies that get created get venture capital. And only out of those companies that get venture capital, only 1% makes it to unicorn status.
Very few businesses attain valuations worth $1 billion. And what's even rarer about KnowBe4 is that they've been able to scale to hundreds of millions of revenue with profitability. So most of the businesses that have achieved unicorn status have consumed lots of venture capital. KnowBe4 has grown very quickly, but the old-fashioned way. They've been profitable on a cash flow basis since inception, and they continue to be today. And that's extremely rare in today's market.
I saw in my last company all these infected workstations that had all the software layers. They had endpoint protection, they had a firewall, they had antivirus, and still the machine got infected. What was going on was a thing called social engineering. So the bad guys were hacking the human. They were manipulating the employee to let them in. Click on a link, open an attachment. So when I started KnowBe4, I looked back and said, well, what is an effective way to manage that ongoing problem of social engineering? And that's how we came up with KnowBe4.
So how I got involved with KnowBe4 is a really interesting story. My cousin Karen was living in Tampa Bay, Florida, and her and her husband were having dinner with this guy named Stu Showerman and his wife. And they started talking about business, and Stu just said, you know, I just sold my company, Sunbelt Software, and now I'm looking to start a new venture, security awareness, computer security. And she goes, oh, you mean about hacking? And he goes, yeah, hacking. And she goes, well, my cousin Kevin went to jail for computer hacking. He got into a lot of trouble. And Stu sat back, and he goes, not Kevin Mitnick, right? She goes, yes, that's him. And he goes, you gotta be kidding, right? So Stu asked, obviously, Karen for my contact information.
So 2 weeks later, I sent him an email and said, hey, I would like to partner, but don't take my word for it. Check me out with your cousin Karen.
This is an offer I seriously looked at because here Stu was coming with this opportunity to do what I always wanted to do. So immediately I said, let's do it.
And ultimately, I had to make the decision, well, I can own 100% of a muffin, but I can own 50% of a really large pie. So what am I going to do? Well, I gave him half the company in exchange for his 30 years of hacking experience, and literally the rest is history.
Having that brand recognition, having that sort of technical celebrity, since our marketing plan was to go to the sysadmin, market to the sysadmin, tell them why they need this. Kevin was a brand that they knew. That just gave us that little bit of recognition over everybody else. If Kevin's doing this, I know Kevin was really good at that. Let me see what they have to offer.
And one of the first big projects we came up with is the red flags. What are the red flags in an email where we could help people identify that could be a potentially phishing email? There's a lot of people that are unaware what whaling is, what spear phishing is. They maybe equate phishing to spam. And we couple this with an important part of security awareness training, and that's attacking the user. Kind of inoculation, right? So you have a flu shot, and you build up antibodies, so you don't get the flu, right? Same idea. If we attack the users, we build up critical thinking, more intelligent detection of these types of attacks. What our clients could do is use our platform, and they could phish their users. And once their users fall for this type of attack, rather than getting ransomware or revealing their credentials to a bad actor, they get to watch a video of me. Say, hey, you fell for this. Now, don't worry, everyone does, but let me show you what the bad guy was trying to do. Next time, you have to be more careful.
Since I had hypergrowth in my last company, we had 15 years of increasing sales, I had a pretty good idea where I could get with KnowBe4.
I would try to explain to my friends and family what we did, and people would ask me, what do you guys do in that little building over there? Because it was a small office space, nobody knew exactly what I was doing, and I would try to explain that, we were enabling companies and their employees to not fall for social engineering tactics. And they would kind of ask me, like, are you just selling videos? And I go, yeah and no. I should have, a training platform that allows the admin to phish their users and train their users. They would typically respond with, how long do you think that place is going to be around? How long do you think that's going to last? That sounds shady. I really just had confidence in the vision. I had confidence in Stu.
It's always exciting to start in a small company that has a big vision. When I was talking to Stu, he already had this vision. We're going to build this product, and we're going to grow like this, and this is our market.
It's like the NFL. There's the scoreboard, and we always say that. This is the NFL, and the points are on the board. I really like that about Stu. That's really the driving factor in how you're doing is, how are your numbers?
His famous saying is, sales saves everything.
When did people start caring about security awareness training? Definitely after more and more ransomware attacks started happening and businesses started having to pay out that ransom to the tune of thousands, tens of thousands to millions, and the negative PR that came with that by having millions of accounts compromised with a site that led you to believe that you were secure. They had to deal with the fallout of that. Many of those companies faced bankruptcy, they faced major losses in reputation, and I think along with that, it made it more imperative that security awareness training was something that needed to be implemented within every organization, regardless of size, regardless of industry.
Once IT professionals started to figure out what ransomware was, they really started to take notice of the risk of employees opening up an attachment and infecting the whole network and literally bringing down the whole company until ransom was paid.
Ransomware gave me the ability to tell a story that wasn't extremely well known at the time. It was just kind of hitting the headlines, and people weren't initially taking it very seriously. When it became evident that ransomware was here to stay and cyber criminals had gone professional, then it made it easy to get the story told. And a lot of media started then picking up how important it was to be trained, how to recognize it. That clicking on a bad link wasn't just going to get you more spam, it was actually going to cost you money, it was going to lock up your systems, it was going to shut down your business. It went from being interesting to critical.
People started looking, well, how do I prevent this? And then they started finding us because we were well prepared. We were already top of the search engines.
That's when our sales went hockey stick and never stopped.
One of the things about the culture that excites me here is our 3 rules. Do it right the first time, do it fast, and have fun while you do it.
The biggest thing about our culture is the transparency. You always know what's going on.
This is also one of the first tech companies that I've worked in that really values women. There is no tech bro culture here. Everyone is treated as equals and the same, and that's all Stu.
If Stu weren't here, it would definitely be a different culture.
Creating a culture is a very deliberate process. All the elements that you see are based on a series of about 15 books that we have as our recommended reading list.
One of the things that Stu covered with me early on was creating an internal recruitment company basically in KnowBe4. And that came from a book called The Sales Acceleration Formula. One of the big things that Stu really stressed is he wanted people who were happy, and he wanted people who would work hard but have fun at the same time that they're working hard.
to you about the new budget for 2020. Do you have a minute?
My name is Amy Jensen, and I am the developer of Fun and Shenanigans.
My name is Erica Lance, and I'm the SVP of People Operations. Amy actually came to me. I had another person who works with her who's the Artisan of Culture and Geekery. That's their actual official title. And I realized that I couldn't have anybody better to be over our culture and figure out a way to expand it. And by our culture, I mean all of our events, all the way down to little things like we have ballet class this week downstairs. There were people in the elevators in tutus. And I was incredibly jealous that I didn't have a tutu at that moment in time to do it.
I think it's great that there's an open door policy. I can walk up to Stu, and I have walked up to Stu with some crazy shenanigans business, like how are we setting up the catapult cupcake? Or catapult cupcake. Cupcake catapult. That is true.
No. Stu never says no to a great fun idea for the staff. We're both big fans of Eddie Izzard, who's a comic, and he has a skit called Cake or Death. And so Stu's like, cake or death? I want to jump into a cake. So I had to figure out how to make a life-size cake that the CEO could jump into.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We have just all of these different great programs that it just creates this great team bond.
I've never seen a company that has a similar culture. It's all those pieces that make it so that you want to come to work every day. People forget all the time that we spend so much of our day at work. If you don't enjoy what you're doing and where you're coming and enjoy the people you work with and go, this is a challenge I want every day, it doesn't matter how much money I pay you, you're not going to be happy. I want all of our employees to be happy, and I think that our attention to detail on the culture and creating the developer and Fun and Shenanigans causes that to occur.
I agree.
Now, one fun thing about this is it overheats. Vents with marshmallow smoke.
That's pretty nice.
There it is.
Company culture has been a major component of hypergrowth, which then in turn creates your valuation. Investors look to a really large degree at future potential growth as the reason why they would invest today. I took VC money because I wanted their relationships and their guidance, and the reason why I did not spend their money because I wanted to sleep at night.
The culture of the company's really unique. Stu runs a very transparent organization. The company has a 9 a.m. all hands meeting every day. The company's KPIs, the key performance indicators, are set at the top but flow through the organization, so people know what Stu's KPIs are and how they flow down to each individual team member's contributions. The feedback we continue to get from customers is that they've got the leading solution in the industry by far. There's a lot of hard work that goes into making it simple, easy, and the best, and we don't always see that.
We built our platform to be super easy, super fast in the sense of deployment. That, in the long run, has been a major reason why adoption was very quick. And people started telling their friends, because word of mouth still actually is our best way and most successful way to get new leads for our sales team.
One of the unique things about KnowBe4 is the entire company, regardless of your position or where you're at in the company, we're all driven for the same goal and everybody's focused on getting the sales up as high as we can. That is driven by our monthly bonus program. It's a monthly cash bonus, and we set certain levels that we're going to hit for the sales. You can go anywhere in the organization at the end of the month and ask people, hey, where are we at on sales? And they'll know down to the dollar exactly where we're at and where we need to be for the next bonus.
You can't Google the actual feel of what it's like to show up and the excitement at the end of the month or the end of the quarter.
people have been earning like over $500 cash a month based on performance.
One of the funny stories that people would not know about KnowBe4 in the early days, there was a time where we were in a small office in this building and we really needed to get some sales in that month in order to stay in the building.
Stu said, hey, we might have to move into my condominium for a little while. We went over there and Lars and I
looked at each other.
We looked at each other and we were like,
no,
oh,
frickin' way.
No.
It was real pressure. It was 3 guys in an office. We definitely didn't want to move.
Well, that office was expensive because it was
Yeah.
9th floor. It had a gorgeous view.
Yeah.
It was like $5,000 a month.
I know.
And we really had no business in a $5,000 a month office at the time.
No. But I wanted a nice view.
I enjoyed it, and I was sad to move out of it, but you know, we were just forging ahead.
Yes, and guess what? 7 years later, we took half of the floor there, and that's where our new executive offices are going to be. So we're going to go back to that original space there. Yeah, this is the view that I remember. The view is the same. Can you imagine? You know, I mean, it's good to be moving back into the space where we initially started. It started out with 3,000 square foot, and it's now, what, 300,000? I think we're going to go live here Q1, right? Yeah.
Since we've made our first $1 million month, every time we hit another $1 million mark, Lars and Stu and I take a picture in front of the sales board. I think we've done 16 million a month at this point, so there's 16 photographs of Lars and Stu and I. I'm looking forward to every single one of them.
Our goal is to make the world a more secure place, enter into these different markets outside of the United States and offer training just like we do over here.
Expanding internationally is a PR's dream, truthfully, because the way our company operates is we start with PR. Before we ever go in and we do any promotion, we actually go in and we start educating the market.
The international markets are about 3 years behind the US. It's a lot of work because translations, localization, hiring international is different from here, but it's worth it and it's interesting. We're opening up an office in Japan. I signed the lease today. I've never been in Tokyo, so I'm gonna go there one of these days. Welcome to KB4Con 2019. Since the first KB4Con last year here in Orlando, we now have 700 employees in 8 countries. We occupy 6 floors in 2 Tampa Bay office buildings. During the last 12 months, we became the leader in this field by a long shot with 25,000 customers.
KB4Con for me, when I saw you on the stage and these giant screens, and it just reminded me of things that I'd seen online with Microsoft and Apple and all these huge companies, the way they do their product releases and annual conferences. You know, there were 1,000 customers there, and my heart got really warm. I was like, wow, look what we've done.
Look where we wound up. And it's only day 1.
I never would have thought we'd be this big, this fast. I guess it was always like but Stu always did. I was like, did you ever imagine that you'd be this big? He said, absolutely. If you don't set your goal there, you're never going to get there.
He's had a vision from when I started working here. I remember one of the 3 sales reps that we had quit, so it was a big turmoil. Lars and Sandy and Stu and I went to lunch next door to the building. Stu sat down and he's like, oh, that guy, he doesn't know what he just missed out on. And we were like, oh. It's like, okay. I've known these people for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks. I was like, yeah, agreed. Stu's like, no, you have to have faith. Know that the reason why I'm doing this is because I want this to be like the first security awareness unicorn. I want to get the company to $1 billion valuation. And I was like, oh, really? And Stu looked at me and he's like, yeah. What do you think the B in KnowBe4 stands for? The B in KnowBe4 stands for billion. We're going to be $1 billion company, have faith.
No, the B for KnowBe4 really is no, it doesn't really stand for the B for billion. That was never really envisioned. That's nice in hindsight, but that B was never, it's more like the before and the no. That was just how we started.
It was never not true for Stu. Like, that was always the reality of what was going to happen. There was no way that wasn't going to be the end goal of everything he'd been working towards.
Nice idea, though. $1 billion.
We've been on the Inc. list 3 years in a row in the Inc. 500. We've also made the Deloitte Technology Top 500. We've gotten Best Place to Work for Women nationally. We've gotten Best Place to Work for Millennials. We have 3 walls of awards, and we're running out of space. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to a luncheon for another award. The story pretty much is focused around our growth. And our growth is focused around our ability to serve our market.
The thing that I like the most about working here is the push for continuous professional development. And they give you a little bit more flexibility and freedom to explore some of your other interests and the things that you like to do, which is really nice.
I can say this is one of the best places I've ever worked for. With all of the fun things that we do, that's just kind of the icing on top. Even if you took away those things, this would still be the best place I've ever worked for.
It's not the typical corporate environment, and I think that's why we keep people as long as we do, and there's not a lot of turnover. People feel like that they're cared for and they have friends here, and they don't want to leave.
It's kind of funny to think of us as almost 1,000 people because it still feels like the 25 or 30 people when you look at how we interact with each other, how we help each other.
I've never worked for a company that puts so much of its resources into its people, and I think that's what makes a difference.
When Stu approached me back in the days to partner, I didn't think that the company was going to be a successful hit as it is today. I had no idea. And I wasn't even really thinking about the money side. I was more thinking about, am I having fun? And the funny thing is, Stu, the CEO of the company, he's not doing it for the money either. He's doing it because it's a lot of fun.
It's a really fun process to start something from scratch and then build it up to its current size, which is still early days. We're going to be much bigger than today. My personal next milestone is a $10 billion valuation, which is eminently doable. You need to get roughly to $1 billion in sales. This is actually the Google gospel, the 10x Google gospel. They don't do anything unless they can 10x it. And so we have taken that to heart and we're doing the same thing. I think we have a fantastic mission here to make sure that we keep everyone's organization, but also every country, as safe as possible.